There is a war happening right now. No bombs, no missiles, no soldiers on the news. But China, Russia, the United States, and Europe are all fighting over the same thing: Africa. The continent with 54 countries and 1.4 billion people. And underneath its soil, the most valuable resources on the planet. 60% of the world's cobalt, 40% of its gold, 30% of its diamonds. Without African minerals, there are no electric cars, no smartphones, no modern weapons. Every superpower knows this, and they are all quietly fighting to control it. Let's start with the basics. The Democratic Republic of Congo alone holds 70% of the world's cobalt reserves. Cobalt is the key ingredient in every lithium battery on the planet. Your phone, your laptop, your electric car, all of them need cobalt. Without cobalt, the green energy revolution stops dead in its tracks. But that's just the beginning. Niger has some of the world's largest uranium deposits, the fuel for nuclear power plants. Mali and Burkina Faso sit on enormous gold reserves. Nigeria has more oil than most Middle Eastern countries. And the entire continent has barely been developed, which means whoever gets in first wins. China understood this before anyone else. In the early 2000s, while the United States was focused on Iraq and Afghanistan, China was quietly signing deals across Africa. The strategy was simple: build infrastructure, get resources in return. China built roads in Kenya, railways in Ethiopia, ports in Tanzania, power plants in Angola. African governments loved it. No lectures about democracy, no conditions, just money and construction. Today, China controls over 70% of cobalt mining in the Congo. Chinese companies own ports in Djibouti, right at the entrance to the Red Sea. China is now the largest trading partner of more African countries than any other nation. And in exchange, China gets the raw materials it needs to build its economy. It was the greatest resource grab in modern history. And Washington was asleep at the wheel.
But China wasn't the only one moving. Russia had a different strategy, and it was far more aggressive. Instead of building roads, Russia sent soldiers. The Wagner Group, Russia's private military, began appearing across Africa. Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, Central African Republic, Sudan, Libya. Wherever there was instability, Wagner showed up. They offered something African governments desperately wanted: protection from rebel groups. In exchange, Russia got mining rights, military bases, and political influence. Between 2020 and 2023, there were 9 military coups in Africa. In almost every single one, the new military government immediately expelled French and American forces and invited Russia in. France lost its entire sphere of influence in West Africa in less than 3 years. For decades, France and the United States dominated West Africa. France had military bases in 14 African countries. The French franc was the official currency in 12 African nations, even after independence. But African populations were furious. Decades of foreign control with nothing to show for it. When the coups happened, people danced in the streets. They burned French flags. They tore down French military bases. The United States was also forced to withdraw its troops from Niger in 2024, a country where America had spent hundreds of millions of dollars building military infrastructure. Gone overnight. Here is why this matters for you personally. The world is transitioning to electric vehicles and renewable energy. Every electric car needs about 10 kilograms of cobalt. Every wind turbine needs rare earth minerals. Every solar panel needs lithium. Almost all of these minerals come from Africa. If China controls African mines, China controls the green energy transition. That means China decides who gets batteries, who gets solar panels, who gets electric cars. The country that controls African resources controls the future economy of the world. This is why the United States recently launched the Lobito Corridor, a massive railway project in Angola, Zambia, and the Congo to compete directly with China. But here is the twist that nobody talks about. Africa is not just sitting there waiting to be exploited. A new generation of African leaders is playing all sides. They take Chinese money, they take Russian security, they take American infrastructure deals, and they keep their independence. Countries like Ethiopia, Nigeria, and South Africa are now members of BRICS, the economic bloc that includes China, Russia, India, and Brazil. Africa is no longer a passive player. It is becoming the most contested geopolitical prize of the century, and African nations are learning to use that leverage. The question is, who will Africa choose?
The battle for Africa is not about ideology. It's not about democracy versus communism. It is about minerals, trade routes, military bases, and the future of the global economy. The superpower that wins Africa wins the 21st century. And right now, China's winning. But the game is far from over.
So what actually happens if China wins this race? Think about it. If China controls the cobalt, the lithium, the manganese, it controls the batteries. And if it controls the batteries, it controls electric cars, smartphones, and the entire green energy transition. Every Tesla, every iPhone, every solar panel, they all need African minerals. And right now, China is the gatekeeper. But it goes even further than that. China is also building the ports, the roads, the railways. That means it controls where goods flow in and out of Africa. It controls the trade routes. And here's the part that keeps Western strategists up at night. China doesn't need to invade anyone. It doesn't need to fire a single shot. It just needs to keep building, keep lending, keep signing deals, while everyone else argues about democracy and human rights. By the time the West wakes up, China will already own the infrastructure of an entire continent. That's not a military victory. That's something far more permanent.
So, where does this leave us? Africa has 1.4 billion people. By 2050, it will have 2.5 billion, the largest population of any continent on Earth. It has the youngest workforce, the most untapped resources, and some of the fastest growing economies in the world. For the first time in centuries, Africa is not just a place that things happen to, it's a place that makes things happen. And the countries that understand this now, the ones building relationships, investing in infrastructure, showing up, those are the ones that will shape the next century. China understood this in 2000. Russia understood it in 2015. The United States is only now starting to understand it in 2024. Europe? Europe is still arguing about it. The race is on. The prize is enormous, and the outcome will determine who runs the world for the next 100 years. This is not a story about Africa. This is a story about power. And power, as always, goes to whoever shows up first. The world you see on the news is just the surface. Beneath every headline, there is a story of geography, resources, and power. Africa is not a problem to be solved. It is the most important continent on Earth right now, and the decisions being made there today will shape your life for decades to come. At Borders and Power, we go beyond the headlines. Every week, we follow the power. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, because the real story is always deeper than what they show you. This is Borders and Power. See you next time.